All right. Looks like people are trickling in. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Women That Wow event. You are currently muted, so please remain so for now, as well as keep your cameras off until later. We are qualifying the session for CPE, so please answer the 5 polling questions as they pop up for your attendance checks. If at any point you're having technical difficulties, please IM me and I can help you out. So with that, I will hand you off to Karen.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome everybody to the first of our Women That Wow speaker series. So excited to see so many people here today, excited to kick off our series. But before we get down to it, let's do our first poll real quick to check the energy level in the room. So Sarah will put up that poll from 1 to 10. What is your energy level today? 10 being off the charts, 1 being, I got to go back to bed. Let's see where we're at. They're coming in fast, so you got energy to answer a poll for sure. All right, we've got a few more of you to answer, a handful of you to answer that poll. 1 to 10, what is your energy level today? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like about a 9 myself. I'm excited. I'm ready.
You're
energized.
Level though, Karen.
All right, let's give it about 10 more seconds. I'll count it down. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see the poll, Sarah. All right, it looks like we got a couple on the low end, a few on the low end. It looks like 7 is our highest number, but we've got some 10s, we got some 8s, some 9s. Well, that's great. I tell you, I'm glad to see it. I know today's event is going to keep you or get you energized. So to kick us off, please join me in welcoming the head of our Women's Committee, Diane Takahashi, to say a few words. Hello, Diane.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody. Just want to welcome everybody to our series, our inaugural speaker series. We hope that these sessions will provide you with some tools to make you a better professional, as well as providing you an opportunity for internal networking when we have the breakout sessions. So I'm super excited and so glad to see so many people joining us today. And I'm going to turn it over to Carol Carlisle to introduce today's speaker. Carol?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. And I so wish that we were in person, and someday soon we will be. I just have to say I am so proud and honored to introduce Scharrell Jackson. And as our first speaker, and I just want to give a little bit about Scharrell. First and foremost, she is a proud graduate of the University of California at UCLA, despite the fact that they have a terrible football team these days, but a great Bruin. Her career is really something remarkable. She has more than shattered ceilings, and she has made a difference in many, many organizations. She's lived in the world of finance and accounting from positions of controller, CFO, COO, chief administrative officer for top 100 and top 50 CPA firms. So she gets our world. She understands the world of public accounting like no one else. She is a sought out speaker. She has spoken at major firm events. She has established charitable giving strategies at the business that she's worked at, as well as many DEI initiatives. In fact, when we launched our DEI initiative, Scharrell was one of the first persons we reached out to and got great guidance. But beyond the accolades professionally, she is a woman of service and a mindset of serving others. She has served on so many organizations, American Red Cross, Go Red Day. She opened the event saying, I'm looking out in this audience and I'm the only sister here. She has been, and the room just roared. And she just brought such joy to that event and a great understanding about heart disease and women. Girls Inc., Orangewood, Working Wardrobes, and Human Options, where she and I served as board members for many, many years, in an organization that's committed to ending domestic violence. Scharrell is committed to lifting up women, and she is the founder of Leadership in Heels, which is a speaker series really comprised of women professionals that lift us up, empower us, and give us the tools to be leaders in our organizations. And every event that I've ever attended for Leadership in Heels, I walk away with something. I learned something that I can apply to my daily life and my career. But most of all, her greatest accomplishment is she raised 3 amazing young men on her own as a single mom. And she's now the proud grandmommy of a brand new baby girl. On a personal note, I've known her for over 15 years. And I'm very proud to call her a friend. If I had to put some words that describe her: passionate, selfless, always present, always engaged. She's authentic, fearless. She is one formidable woman. She lives with a heart of kindness and care and really lifts everyone up. And she's all about family, friends, and faith. I am very proud to say I'm part of her tribe and she's part of mine. So with that, Scharrell, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom so we can all be more engaged, have better balance, understand our boundaries, and really be effective in our new world and how to be a leader in a hybrid world. Thank you.
You're welcome so much. One of the things that Carol didn't say is that I'm also sensitive. All of those amazing things that you were saying just brought really a lot of emotion to my spirit. It's a blessing and a privilege to be able to come before you this afternoon and speak with you about engagement and leading in the midst of change and how we are just better together. I love the theme of your event. I think when I was first given the opportunity to speak with you all, I don't know that we had the theme yet. And if we did, then somehow I missed it. But I don't know if it's a company policy or not, but I would love to see your beautiful faces on screen. So I think that there was an ask that you turn your cameras off, but if you guys are okay with turning your cameras on, that would be absolutely fabulous for me, because I don't know how we could talk about engagement and we can't look into each other's eyes. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's just the requirement for the day, right? So I love to engage with you all. I love to see you. I am not your traditional speaker. I am, as Carol says, super authentic, and this is really for you. This is an opportunity for us to sit and pretend like we are in each other's living room, have some girl talk about some real things that are matters of the heart, to penetrate our minds and our heart, get stimulated by the things that we know, and then walk away with some real tools to change our leadership game, be able to elevate ourselves personally and professional, and engage in a more effective way that's really going to help us be the women of wow that we truly are. So I am so grateful to be here with you guys this afternoon. As Carol mentioned, my name is Scharrell Jackson. I own a speaker series called Leadership in Heels, and I'm learning about the whole social media space. So I encourage you, before we get too deep into this, to follow me on Instagram at leadership.in.heels or on Facebook in Leadership in Heels. I also have a webpage, which is very easy. It's Scharrell Jackson. And you can always reach me on email at Scharrell@ScharrellJackson.com. So I would encourage you to please give me some comments about what we can do to make the next time I have an opportunity to speak with you or others in the future on how I can make sure that our time together is well spent. My greatest accomplishment, as Carol mentioned, she's heard me say this over and over again, is raising my 3 kings. It's something I'm exceptionally proud of. And also being able to navigate in professional services for over 20 years as a partner and COO of one of the top 40 firms in the nation for over 21 years. And so I understand, I get it, as Carol says, about some of the challenges that we experience as women in this industry. Today, I want you to engage. If there are specific questions that you have, I don't want you to wait and focus on trying to be polite and waiting for the right time. If you got something to say, again, we're sitting in each other's living room. We just happen to be in little square boxes on the screen. Pretend like you got your glass of wine or whatever it is that you would have post 5 o'clock. Sometimes now in COVID, it might be pre-5, but just don't tell anybody. And just ask away, whether we want to utilize the chat or you have a formal way that we want to ask questions, but this is for you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of today. First and foremost, we talked about the conversation around leadership really requiring engagement. And how do we lead in the midst of change? And I don't know about any of you, and this is where I create confusion, because we're going to have some polling questions. And I know that we don't have them. So in the chat, I just want to know how many of you are struggling with leading in the midst of change. And there's no right or wrong, but I'd love to hear from you in the chat. And if there's something specific that we need to hit on this afternoon, then I want to make sure that we do that. But how many of you are challenged by leading in the midst of this change? Working from home, trying to balance your life between working at home and your family and your relationships. Overworking, because right now we're in Zoom madness and we find ourselves in so many meetings that it's unreal. How do you figure out the balance when it comes to this new environment that we're working in? The idea of going back into the office where you may have gotten comfortable and feel like it's effective working at home, and now you have to go back in the office. Whatever that is, are there any challenges that you want to make sure that I cover while we are leading in the midst of this change? And if there are, I'm going to do my best to try to capture those as they go through, as you guys are putting your comments up in the chat. One of them I see is about our inability to unplug. Sounds like there's a difficulty around finding balance. How do we deal with stuff like dogs barking in the background? I mean, for real, right? Because that's a simple thing, and I love that. It's really interesting how we have a difficult time taking breaks. For some reason, we sit down and we act like we can't give it up. And then we're dealing with that thing called COVID weight, because so many of us are dealing with that, right? And then for those of us who are challenged with not really wanting to go back into the workplace, or your children, right? How are you dealing with being able to balance children, relationships, and things of that nature? Well, one of the things that I think is important for us to understand is that every single one of us are leaders, right? It doesn't matter what your role, your responsibility, your job title, or your income level is. If you have one person in your life that you can influence, then you're a leader. And when we think about leaders, there's so many types of leaders, regardless of what side of the table that you sit on, what you look like, your age, your ethnicity, none of that matters. There are leaders across this globe, right? There's Gandhi was a leader. Donald Trump was a leader. So was Barack Obama. Maya Angelou's a leader. Dr. Martin Luther King is a leader. There are so many leaders, and people lead with different leadership styles. Well, each of you are leaders. And one of the key components that I want to talk about as a leader first is how we lead with our own individual end game in mind. And our individual end game is dictated by what our finish line of success looks like for us. And each of those leaders, whether we agree with them or not, had a purpose and a message that they led with. And so as we go through today, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we touch bases on was leading with engagement. How do we stay engaged? And so as leaders, we have to remember that leaders have the power to do what? We have the power to influence, right? We have the power literally to create so much change because we are leaders. And when you think about what we also can do as leaders, leaders have power. Leaders have the ability to get people to follow them. And so as leaders, we want to be great examples for the individuals in our lives who are following us, the individuals in our life who are watching us, our family, our friends, our cohorts, our parents, our children, our mates, our partners, our spouses. We want to make sure that as leaders, we have an ability to influence in a powerful way where people want to follow. And so it's critical that we understand that each of us has that responsibility because each of us are leaders. And as leaders, the only way that we can be effective is that we engage. And I think that we have a polling question around engagement. Before I get too far, I said I was going to do a good job of this, in what we think the benefits of engagement are. So what I'd like for you to do is take a few seconds before we get into engagement and just answer these questions on what you think the benefits of engagement are. Looking at it, looks like we're about 41%, 45%. Benefits of engagement. Not a trick question, but a great one. And they told me you guys don't like to participate. I got a feeling we're going to have so much engagement this afternoon. I'm super excited about it. All righty. We got about 8% left. Come on, everybody be engaged. I need you to prove me right. This is the group of engagement. I need everybody to get their vote in. Looks like we're down about 7 people. 7 people, 6. All right, we're getting ready to put it to a close in one more second. 96% of the people voted. Thank you, guys. So the benefits of engagement: having individuals watch out for your blind spots, teaching you how to ask for help, having adequate support when you feel like you are by yourself, having other individuals that can celebrate your wins with you, or all of the above. And the whole thing about it is, of course, we all know that it's all of the above. Now, some of us may need one particular engagement level than others. Some of us may need people to watch out for our blind spots. Some of us may need individuals who will tell us the truth. But the bottom line is, when you think about engagement, it is to help you to become a more impactful leader. In fact, it's just ironic. I scheduled an event this Thursday, so I hope that you guys are able to participate. Carol, I'm gonna put you on the spot, and I hope that the organization will support you all in participating. We have an event on Thursday, Leading with Impact. Leadership requires a tribe. And when you start to think about engagement, that's exactly what your tribe does for you. But the goal of engagement at work, at home, and in your community is so that we can become better leaders. And when you think about engagement, it's critical that in order for us to engage, we have to give people permission to be participatory in our lives. So when you think about engagement at work, that means that you have to have individuals who are supporting you on your career journey. That means that in order to engage, you have to be willing to ask people for help when you need it. It also means that engagement requires you to set the necessary boundaries so that your engagement is healthy. So how do we do that? How do we engage in a way that is effective for us first? How many of you, when you're navigating through your day, whether it's at home or at work, and whether you're working at home, when you are working at home, your mind is at work? So that's what I mean when I say that. I don't mean your physical presence, but where you truly are in that moment. How many of you, when you are engaging at work, are considering yourself? Drop it in the chat. How many of you know how to consider yourself first? And we're going to see what pops up in this chat. Yeah, that is tough, Elizabeth. Super tough. How many of us know how to consider ourselves first? It's hard, right? It's hard for us. Karen sounds like she might have the answer. We might have to get Karen to pop to the screen, because Karen may have this down. You know, for me, it is something that I had to learn. I had to learn that engagement is not just about what I am contributing to others, but the benefit of what I'm gaining from those relationships. So when we talk about engagement, we need to ensure that we are considering ourselves first, not last. That we have a clear understanding of what it is that we want out of, when you look at it on a large scale, our life. When you start to narrow it down, our career. You bring it even in further to our relationships, how we want to spend our time. Ultimately, what is the experience that we want to have in every opportunity to engage? What is that experience? And it starts with you thinking about that for yourself. For me, when I wake up every single day, I start my day off looking in the morning, no matter what, and saying to myself, good morning, badass. And anybody who has heard me speak knows that this is part of my nomenclature. I speak life into myself because I matter. I have a prayer partner that I pray with. I listen to gospel music, and I set the tone for the day that I want to have. So your first takeaway this afternoon is that your engagement starts with yourself. You have to wake up every day and engage with yourself. And it does not mean that you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. People get used to it. You know, my boyfriend would say, who are you talking to? Baby, I'm talking to myself. I got to get ready for this thing. Right now, anybody who follows me know that I have Monday motivations. Like, it's a really big deal for me to wake up and to make sure that I motivate myself so that I'm able to engage effectively with others. But I have to start with Scharrell. So your first takeaway is engagement starts with you. It starts with you making the decision that you matter, that you're going to set the tone for the day in which you're going to have, that you're going to wake up regardless of how you feel with a smile because you just were gifted with another opportunity to get it right and another day, that you're going to set the stage for the languaging that you want to have in your day by speaking positive to yourself and being open to receiving positive energy back from other people, that you're going to be clear on what you want your objectives for that day to look like and feel like. And that's going to be predicated on the energy that you bring to the table. And all of this may sound like it's something that's intangible, that it's really a bit ambiguous, but I promise you that it works. It doesn't mean that the days won't get hard, but when you think about the way you engage with yourself when you wake up, and don't wake up and go straight to your cell phone and start checking your messages and looking at your emails. How many of you do that? Tell the truth. How many of you, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing that you do is you go to your phone? So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Do a favor for Scharrell. This is favor for Scharrell Day. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, starting with engaging with yourself, Wendy, Sarah Cullen, Judy Sosa, Nancy, Carol Carlisle, Alexandria, Nikki Ohilo, RC, all of you on this screen, Brandy, Chandra, Amanda, Katie, what I'm asking you to do, a favor for Scharrell, is wake up in the morning and start off by engaging with yourself. Good morning, badass. Good morning, beautiful. Today is going to be an amazing day because I said it. Now, a lot of you can't see it, but I live by the cadence of amazing. I'm going to try and make my screen come up. So you see this necklace? It says amazing. Why? Because my days are amazing, period. That is it. That is all. I don't care. So I want you to first focus on how you engage with yourself. All right. And then I want you to set the tone for how you engage with others. So I'm not sure, and I may be speaking out of turn for HCVT, but when you entree into a meeting, you're going to work. So turn your screens on. Engage with each other. It's so important that we continue to establish one of the most critical things that we need in life, and that's relationship. And relationship doesn't have anything to do with our physical presence. It has to do with the contributions that we make into one another's lives. For those of you who choose to stay connected to me beyond this 1 hour of time that we have together, we can establish a relationship. So it's important that when you entree into your workday or into your home life that morning after you've engaged with yourself, engage with the people around you. Good morning to your family. Don't allow yourself to get so focused into the phone that you lose sight of one of your objectives for the day, and that is to start your day off with meaningful engagement. So you're going to teach the people around you to engage. Why? Because you're leaders of influence. And when people watch you do it, they follow you, right? So when you wake up and you're telling your family members, good morning, today is going to be an amazing day. Who do you think is going to turn around and say, well, no, it isn't? Nobody. They're going to receive that and walk away believing that. Then when you jump into a meeting and you have an opportunity, and it doesn't matter what's going on in the back of your home. I know a lot of people say, well, I'm not really ready to log on and show my face. Well, that's why you guys have these amazing HCVT screens behind you. You don't even have to show your house if you don't want to. But get up, get ready for work. Be ready to engage. Just because we're virtual doesn't mean that we shouldn't connect. Our ability to connect with each other will help us as we navigate through our career. So I encourage you to not only engage with yourself, but be open to engaging with others. And then for those of you who are really good at that, like Karen's good at that. And those of you who really maybe start off with your phone, I'm going to ask you to put your phone on hiatus periodically so that you can monitor your level of engagement. So when you wake up in the morning, there is nothing on your phone that's critical for the most part, and that cannot wait like 5 or 10 minutes, even if you start off slow. And I'm going to also ask you to end your day the same way. And we'll talk about that. All right. But engagement is really important. And when we talk about being women of wow, you can't really wow anybody if you're not a wow. And wow doesn't have anything to do with how we look. Wow has everything to do with what we bring to the table. And so if you want to be able to wow, let's talk about how you do that. And what it might require is a little bit of change. So we talked about, change and how change can be hard for so many people. We all hear about that, right? But in this environment, there is a lot of change going on. And if we want to make sure that we're playing a significant part in engaging in our lives and the lives of others, and we've had a difficult time doing that, that means that we have to pivot, right? We have to change. And everybody changes. How many of you look the same that you did 10 years ago? Anybody on the screen? So I'm not formally prepared for this, but I'm just going to show something to you guys really quickly about change. I'm going to share my screen with you. It wasn't a plan, but I'm going to share my screen with you. How many of you can see my screen? Now, the only person that probably may remember this person might be Carol Carlock. She's known me for a long time. So you see this then person right there? That's me. And you see this now person right there? That's me. And the point that I'm trying to make is we all change. We all change, forced or not. So what I'm asking you to do is consider being in front of your change. Consider, oh, they look fabulous. Thank you, Caitlin. That was nice. I appreciate that. But the point of the matter is that we all change. And so as we're navigating through our change, we should determine what we want our outcome to be. So when we're leading in the midst of change, and we know that in order for us to be the most impactful leaders that we need to be, it starts with engagement. We've got to start engaging. And then for those of us who have a difficult time with engagement, we've got to be willing to change. So how do you change? One of the questions, and I think that it's in the poll, I hope, is why we should change. So can you guys put that polling question up? Because I'd love to hear your answers. So why should we change? All right, you guys are good. We're getting there quickly this time. All righty. So when you think about all of the reasons to change, I have this saying from a business perspective is that we don't want to be Uberized in a business, right? We don't want to be what Uber was to taxi. We don't want to be what Netflix was to Blockbuster. And the reason why those organizations that I use as an example were knocked out of the box is because they were unwilling to change. And so while we often say, well, people should just accept us as we are, well, they should accept us, but we also should be willing to become better than we were. And everything that we're doing requires us to shift at some point in time in our life. And so even though change is difficult, we know that at the end of the day, it makes us relevant. It gives us new opportunity. Makes us strong and resilient. It improves our relationships when we're able to look at ourselves versus looking at others. Change positions us to embrace a new normal. And without risk or change, we are at risk of loss, like Taxi, like Netflix, like so many other things that have happened in our lives, maybe opportunities for promotions, relationships that we were in that we didn't want to lose, but we lost, friendships that didn't turn out the way that we wanted them to turn out. The bottom line is we have to be open to change. And while change is difficult, change is truly required for us to grow and to be better leaders. It's a necessity for each of us. But we want to stay innovative. We want to stay competitive. We want to make sure that we're maximizing our opportunity to engage at the highest level. And sometimes change is hard. You know, what are some of the things, and this is another polling question, what do you think prevents us from changing? Can we put that polling question up? These are some great answers. And this is a great question. I really love to talk about what prevents us from changing, because when we're not open to changing, it prohibits us from really leading in the midst of change in a very impactful way, where we can become the best leaders that we are capable of being. And again, this is the women of wow, right? In order to wow people, you first have to entree into a room where you can engage. You have to be able to relate to others. And that starts with our ability to relate to ourselves. 90% of you have voted, and fear, insecurity, concern about what others think, afraid to offend, a desire to be perfect are all of the above. Absolutely all of the above. But the one thing that I know that resonates for me in an unwillingness to change is fear. Now I'm going to share something personal. I just had a grandbaby 7 days ago. And right now, my beautiful daughter-in-law is struggling with motherhood. There's so much. She's a brand new mom. And while she's excited, she's kind of scared. There's COVID. And I've been looking forward to being a grandmother. I don't even know how long, because I had one of the best grandmothers that a child could ask for. And I couldn't wait to emulate her, to just embrace my new grandbaby and hug her and kiss her and have her a special room in my home and overshop for her and do all of these amazing things that in my mind would make me an awesome grandmother and establish this amazing relationship. But my daughter-in-law, my son, they have a little fear with COVID and just all of the changes that are happening in the world. And so what it's forcing me to do is shift my expectations. And that's really, really hard. This is the first time I verbalized this because my grandbaby is brand new. And it also causes me to be a little emotional. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we have to evaluate every situation that we find ourselves in and identify whether or not we need to pivot, even when we're scared. For me, oftentimes, I don't want to change because I'm scared. I'm scared of the outcome. I'm scared that I might not get that which I want. I'm scared that I might offend somebody. I might get it wrong, that I'll be misunderstood, that I'll be judged. I'm scared that I might hurt feelings, or my feelings might get hurt. There are all sorts of reasons why we don't change. But for me, the biggest reason is fear. But what I had to learn is that even though we all have fear, it's scary transitioning from speaking live to on screen, because I'm an engaging speaker. I like interaction. I like to touch and feel the people that I'm speaking with. I feed off of the energy of the individuals in the room. And then I was forced to move to Zoom, to a virtual platform. In some instances, to pre-recording my talk and then sending it off so people could watch it later. It's crazy. So what I had to do to push past that fear, and the point that I want to make to you as you think about how you can better engage, how you can start to shift and create some personal and professional changes that you want to make in your life, is you've got to deal with the fact that fear is never going away. That false evidence that appears real will sit with us. And you got to allow yourself to feel it. It can have a voice. Fear can have a voice. It can be loud and resounding with a big fat gong, but it cannot have a vote in how you move. Because remember, we started this conversation off with, you have the power to dictate the type of day that you want to have. Once you conquer the moments and the hours and the days, it'll move to weeks and months. It'll move to a lifetime, relationships, jobs, careers, how you navigate through your day-to-day, what bothers you and what doesn't. So even when you're feeling afraid, allow yourself to feel the fear. Don't push it away, but do not allow the fear to dictate how you move. And I started off millisecond by millisecond. For people who know me, that used to be, I only can do this millisecond by millisecond. Then it was moment by moment, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. And it took me a while to get to a point where, for the most part, I could push through fear until I just had this new situation in my life with my grandbaby. Because I want to be over there every day. They live around the corner. I just want to go kiss the baby and give her a hug and touch her. But I have to respect the fact that there's a greater need than my own. And so I have to do something different. And then I have these imaginary thoughts like we do as women. Well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? I don't know about you, but how many of you have thought up something, drawn a conclusion, and moved accordingly when nothing ever happened? Have any of you done that, or is it just me? Because I'm a keeper. I'm so good at that. It's bananas. Yeah, many of us do it, right? But we have to learn how not to do that by knowing that we can feel what we feel, but we have to move according to what we want. And when we allow ourselves to get to a safe space where we understand the fear is always going to live with us, and that fear can have a voice, but it can't have a vote, then we'll start to navigate our lives according to what we want. And we'll be able to start to navigate through some of that change. We'll be able to set some of those boundaries that we need to set at home and at work. We'll get to that space where we can start to exercise that power of no and not let that fear of failure prevent us from making the necessary changes that we want to make. So let's pivot just to your environment here at work today and how some of us are navigating through our careers. We're trying to figure out how we balance home and work. How do we position ourselves so that we're not sitting in that chair at that desk from the start of the day to the end and we're failing to eat, or even get up and get some decent exercise, to take a moment and breathe deep, something we're going to do in just a second. How many of us are feeling like we don't know how to elevate in our career if we don't have the connections that some people have, because now we're lost because we're at home, or we don't have those relationships, or we don't have the access? The bottom line is there are a lot of thoughts that can navigate through our mind as a result of this change. because of COVID and working from home and how we change our relationship. But remember, we have a right to dictate what we want our end game to be, even in our careers. The only way that we can do that, though, is we have to exercise our voice. We have to start to effectively communicate the things that we want and who we want them from. We have to be open and we have to be honest. And that means that we have to be willing to ask for what we want, even when we are afraid. So now I've said a lot. Before I go into the next thing, I'm going to take a quick pause and just see, does anybody have any questions about what I've shared thus far? Anybody? You can ask me anything. Whether it's in the chat, you can ask something in the chat. And I'm scrolling through the different screens just to see if anybody's beautiful face is on the screen. And you want to ask a question, and you can use the raise your hand function. Does anybody have any questions? Because remember, this is for you. Your organization has put this together for you, not just so that they can benefit, but so that they can give you the tools that you need in order to elevate yourself and become women of wow. In order to further engage, not just on behalf of the organization, but on behalf of yourself. So is there anything when we talk about engagement, when we talk about change, we talk about fear? Is there
I have a
anything
question.
specific? Yes. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. So this one, I mean, it's definitely a very basic one, but I think it's something that I've always struggled with in that we are so taught to put others first. That end goal, like, do you have something specific that you do to try and clarify what it is you want? Because I'm not used to.
Uh-oh, looks like Elizabeth, we have the virtual.
You know, what do I want? It doesn't matter what I want. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not used to focusing back on the self and you know, so any tools, any thoughts, guidance?
Absolutely. So I'm one of those individuals that you would coin as an overachiever, overdoer, overgiver, over, doing things nobody asked you to do, then having the nerve to complain about it. I don't know if anybody else knew about that, but that was me. And so to your question, Elizabeth, some of the tools that I've had to apply is, first and foremost, I had to get to know Scharrell. I had to understand, and that's why I started off with engagement. What is important to me? And for me, because I am so addicted to living on behalf of others, I have to do it day by day. So that's why I wake up in the morning, and part of my toolbox is praying with my prayer partner for others and for myself. Part of it is calling out what I want to accomplish for myself and for others. Dictating the type of day that I want. And ladies, I want you to hear me when I say this. Dictating the type of day that I want. Because to your question, Elizabeth, things don't work out for us because we shift in the midst of the day to start operating according to what other people want. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't do things for other people, but what we do needs to yield an outcome that's also favorable for us. Now, that doesn't discount sacrificial giving that we do periodically, but we should not, and we are not required to live a daily, moment, minute by minute, second by second life of sacrifice, which many of us do. And so for me, I've also had to incorporate, as I navigate through my day, when things come my way, don't say yes to that which you want to say no. There is a thing called boundaries. And the way that you exercise those in a healthy way is you have to know that no matter how amazing you think you are, you don't have the power to control how people feel. People feel according to their own individual makeup, their own emotions. You could tell one person, sweetie, you probably don't want to wear that dress. it's not really complimenting you that well. And she might say, oh my God, I am so glad you told me that. I love this dress. Another person might say, oh my God, I can't believe she said that to me. How insulting, right? Same comment, different audience. The point that I'm trying to make is that we have to be honest and authentic with the level of humility and care for others, but not to the point that we become an imposter, that we're lying to ourselves and others. Because ultimately, what happens as a result of a lack of authenticity is we don't have trust. And when people don't trust you, you don't have intimacy and you don't have engagement, right? So the things that I do start with the basics of how I engage with Scharrell and what I want for my day. And then if I really want something for my day, I have to implement the tools required to get the outcome that I want. So there are a few tools that I use consistently, and they're hard. For example, I'm dealing with this personal situation. I can get my feelings hurt. So I say to my amazing king, big son, I call my son big, middle, little. I say to big son, honey, I understand what's going on in your home and I love you, but my feelings are hurt. And I don't need you to do anything about it, right? You be honest about that, what you need from others, and what you feel when it's appropriate. If I don't want to do something, I say, I don't want to do that. Stop over contributing that which you don't have to give and then being mad about it. We do that as women. Think about what you say yes to before you say yes, and what you want your long game to be, not your momentary emotion. You're saying yes because you want to be a pleaser. You want somebody to like you, or you don't want to disappoint. But then you're mad because you shouldn't have said yes in the first place. So just say, as much as I would love to do that for you at this time, I'm not in a position to do it now. You will even find, and this doesn't go, I mean, obviously in the environment of professional services, we have deadlines. It's a deadline-oriented business. If you're on tax, audit, there are deadlines. But this isn't anything new. You didn't entree into the environment and not know that we have deadlines, right? So schedule yourself accordingly. I mean, really, it's just that simple. And what we have to remember is we matter just as much as the client. Our leadership cares about us. This is why you're having Women of Wow. You matter. We know how to go back to our clients and let our clients know. We like to get that documentation so that we can get you what you need timely. But we're too afraid to just say that. Clients understand. Clients understand that it's a mutual relationship from both parties. We just have to be honest. You'll be surprised how many clients, when we implemented this at a former firm that I was with, and I just started to tell our staff members, our partners, our managers, if you have a client that runs late all the time, have you bothered to talk to the client? How about we just go to the client and say to the client, I know how important it is that we get this done. In order for me to meet that deadline, can you get it at this particular time? It keeps our stress down. Not everybody is going to meet our expectation. But the point I'm trying to make is it starts with us first, understanding the day that we want, setting boundaries, being honest, and exercising the power of no. And while we will sometimes have to do things we don't want to do, we shouldn't always be doing things that doesn't yield us the outcome for the day that we want to have. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Because it's really important. It's very important that we exercise that courage in the midst of fear. And in order for us to change, in order for us to set those boundaries that I'm talking about, to exercise that power of no, to not over contribute, it actually means that we have to exercise some courage. And, you know, courage doesn't mean we're doing things that when we're not afraid. It just means that We're having the courage to take the action even when we are afraid. Even if we're afraid to say no because we're going to disappoint somebody. We're afraid to tell somebody not now. We're afraid to say, I don't actually even really like that. Right? You set yourself up in these relationships, and then you 5 years in and mad at somebody and been doing something for 5 years, and they're trying to figure out, well, why are you mad? I mean, we teach people how to treat us, starting with our parents, our siblings, our children, our bosses, our employees. We set the tone for the relationships that we have. And if we want to ensure that we have healthy engagement, make sure that what you want out of your relationship, you are clear to the individual. It's not fair to be in a relationship with someone and they have no idea of your expectation of them. You know, when we interview at Lendistry, what I share with my recruiters is that this is a mutual decision between two parties, and we are not trying to sell anyone a job. We want to create a relationship where both parties can equally contribute and get the highest gain out of the interaction. So the decision isn't made based on the qualifications on paper. The decision is made based on the individual contributions through engagement. And as we start to engage with each other, we need to be honest about what it is that we want out of the relationship. And that's all relationships. That's work. That's with your family, with your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your parents, your bosses, your employees. Be honest. When you're having conversations with people, tell them what you want and then give them the opportunity to choose. But this is when that courage comes in, because if you're sharing with somebody that you want something out of the relationship and they can't meet you where you are, what do you do then? You got to be prepared to pivot, right? You have to be prepared to say, first of all, what do I want? And if this is what I want, do I want to change so I can really go after what I want? Do I want to be that wild woman who's authentic and powerful? Do I want to make sure that every day I can celebrate myself, whether I had highs or lows, because I stayed true to who I am? And I went about my day in a manner that worked for me, because when I'm the best version of myself, I can give my best to everybody around me. And when I'm not, I can't. I'm not capable. So if I'm going to do that, then how am I going to do that? How do I do it? Well, first, when you walk away from today, what I want you to do is decide whether or not you want to be a woman of wow. Decide whether or not you want to lead with engagement. Decide whether or not you're willing to change. And if you make the decision that the answer is yes, ask yourself why. Why do you want to do it? And once you realize that I want to do this because I want to experience my life at the highest level, well, what does that desired outcome look like for you? Well, for me, it looks like when I end my day every day, I just want Jesus to be proud of me. That's my desired outcome for my life. I just want Jesus to be proud of me. My end game for my life is I want to go to heaven. That's my end game. So for me, that's how I live. I've had different end games. As I've matured spiritually, it's changed. It might have been my career. It's always surrounded around my kings. My end game really was also, I want to be the type of woman that my sons want to marry. That was always my end game as a parent. I'm sure, Carol, you probably heard me say that over the years. You know, it's like, I want to be the kind of woman that my sons want to marry. You know, I want to be a person who leads with purpose. Whatever you want your desired outcome to be, write it down. Write it down. Determine, do I want to change and why? And what do I want my desired outcome to be? Period. And that may continue to change and evolve over time. but set a timeline. No matter what you do, set a timeline. Do not just make some broad statement and don't set a timeline. I don't care if the outcome is I want to lose 5 pounds. Don't make it 20, start with 5, right? I want to lose 5 pounds in 10 days. And then every day, say to yourself, did I move according to my end game? If my end game was, I wanted to have an amazing day and somebody was bringing me some drama, everybody knows that I have this thing where I go, back up. Reverse, hold up. When my children were small, they'd come in my room with drama. Hold up, back up at the door. I need you to exit and come back in with a different spirit. Don't come up in my space with that extra. I do the same thing. We can be in a meeting. They think I'm funny, but I tell them, you know, I'm not, I may be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's my term that I use. But at the end of the day, your voice is about at a 7. I need you to bring that down to about a 2. You're disrupting my energy. You know, we may not agree and we don't have to, but the style of conversation needs to be in a manner that's going to give Scharrell what she needs. You know, I had some health challenges a few years ago. I'm very conscious of how I interact with people. And if I'm upset, I say, I'm not capable of contributing to this conversation that's going to yield me the outcome that I want. So I need to opt out and let me circle back to you at a different time. The bottom line is there are a number of tools that we can use to stay in front of the outcome that we want for our life. And this is across the board of your life. You don't need to code switch and be somebody at work and at home and when you're with your man or your woman or your kids or your parent. Just be who you are. But know who it is that you want to be and why you want to be that person. And set a timeline. And remember, for me, it was millisecond by millisecond. Then it got to day by day. Once I could conquer a day, I took 2, you know. And then I want to tell you this. Count your wins. Like today, when we leave this screen, today is going to be a win. I don't really care how you feel about the presentation. As far as I'm concerned, I'm giving you my best. I'm counting my win, right? I mean, we got to count our wins. When somebody says to me, how is your speaking engagement? I say, well, I haven't got the feedback from the audience, but I think it went awesome. Or I might say, I think it went great, but I have some opportunities to improve. I can't wait to get the feedback, right? But I have to determine what I want my day to be. So that's a long answer to say every little bit counts. Count your wins, set your boundaries, exercise the power of no. But first you have to decide. You have to decide if you want to change. You have to decide why you want to change. You have to make sure that you set a timeline and you've got to track your progress, period. And whatever you do, make sure that you do it daily. So don't make it so big that you don't have an opportunity to do it daily. Now, I know I have a timeline and I get all excited about this and I might be missing out on different things and it's already, oh shoot, I done messed up. Karen, why didn't tell me? I was over the time frame. Lord Jesus, I done messed up.
You were very engaging. You're very engaging, Scharrell. We want to hear from you.
Sorry, honey bun. Okay, listen. We have some breakout sessions for you guys to get into, and we might have had a little more time, but I think I kind of dovetailed into your time. But we have some breakout activities that we want to get into, and we want to make sure that we do that. And I want to make sure that while you're in your breakout sessions and you have the different questions, depending on the session, that you really engage with each other. I know that it's not something that everybody is comfortable with, but this is for you. So engage. There's a question. Let's talk about the question. I'm going to let them. Karen, you're going to take over and somebody's going to tell us what they're going to do.
I sure will. I sure will. Thank you. Thank you, Scharrell, for giving us so much to think on. And for that end, we are going to have breakout activity to discuss engagement, what it is, how we get better at it. What does it mean to us? The breakouts work very simply. We're going to give you a question that you're going to read and discuss with your group. You're going to choose a scribe or a lead who can take notes because we want you to share. When we get back, we'll call on random breakouts. We'll have about 10 minutes in the room. So, get to it. As soon as you see your question, I'll show you in just a moment. And then pay attention to your breakout room numbers because that's going to be the question that you have. It's assigned by breakout room numbers. So let me show you first. And this will also be in your breakout room, so you'll be able to see this. These are our questions. What's your definition of engagement? how do leaders increase engagement and connection? What can the firm do for engagement? And what can I do to become more engaged? So depending on what room number you're in, that's the question you've got for your, we're going to be in small groups to chat. There'll be a few of us who are going to be popping in and out of breakouts to see how you're doing, see if you need anything. And as Scharrell said, if you have any questions about your question, absolutely bring them back into the room with us and we can put it in chat. We can talk about it as a group. Again, these questions are going to be in your breakout room. I'll share this to the breakout rooms, but in a moment, Sarah's going to open up the breakout rooms. So please pay attention to your number and we'll see you in 10 minutes. And if you're having trouble getting out of the breakouts, let us know. We can help you. Your questions are already in there in the breakouts. All right, Sarah, we went in at 2:02. Is that right? Okay, I'm going to go pop into one of the rooms.
Are we waiting for everybody to come back now?
Yep, you're just about back, Scharrell.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, welcome back from the breakouts, everybody. Hope you had a chance to have a good discussion around your question. As I said, I'm just going to call out a random room number, and if you'll come off mute and share what you discussed around your question, or if you had any questions, as I said, about your questions, you can also put your thoughts into chat or your questions into chat. So in groups 1 through 10, what is your definition of engagement? I'm going to call on room 6. Will somebody from room 6 come off mute and share with us what you discussed?
Hi, Karen and everyone. It's Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
We were talking about engagement, what we defined as engagement. And we all thought about more of a connection when we thought about the word engagement. Talking to another person really involved you, more so listening to understand what the other person is saying so that you don't just necessarily reply with what your answer is going to be. You take the time to, understand and think through what the person is saying. So engagement to us meant something a little bit more genuine in terms of speaking with another person. It wasn't just a question, answer, and reply type of ordeal for us.
So you said kind of, and that it sounds like you talked a little bit about authenticity, which Scharrell had mentioned that's so important when you're engaging with someone and connecting with someone. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing. Your thoughts, Scharrell?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. One of the groups talked about being present. And I think that it really is important, in this environment, I hate to say it and put people on the spot, but you have to make a choice that you want to engage with people. I really think every company should have mandatory cameras on in their environment. I think that, when you think about engagement, it really is about being present and interacting with the individuals that you are have an opportunity to interact with. And it requires effort. And I think that it's a life cadence that we all should live by. It doesn't matter what our role in life is. And so I just hope that as a result of today, that each and every one of you will choose to step up your engagement, and then we can talk about how you do that. But I really hope that everybody's willing to do that, because the organization is looking to connect with you, which is why we're doing this. But in order to have engagement, it takes two, right? We started off talking about leadership, and we both have to, all of us have to lead in a way that's going to yield a high level of engagement.
Mhm. Thank you. So true. So true. Thank you, Group 6. Let's move on to our second question, which is how do leaders increase engagement and connection? So for this one, let's go with room 17. 17, if somebody will come off mute from 17.
Come off of mute. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sure can, Cynthia.
So the question was, how do leaders increase engagement and connection? So we said one of the small things you could do is turn your camera on when you're checking in, or if you're just delegating work, you can do it via email, but then also follow up with a call and make sure your camera is on. Also, over communicating, I think that's extremely important right now because we are all working remote. And something we've done in the Westlake Village office is try to go into the office, or we went into the office once last Friday to kind of just have lunch and meet people, because there are people who we've been working with that we still haven't met in person. So those are just a couple of examples.
So true. Thank you, Cynthia. Scharrell?
Yeah, one of the other individuals mentioned joining meetings early. I thought that was awesome. This is how we can increase our engagement and connection, by joining the Zoom meetings early and being able to have that time for that small talk like you would if we were in person, and you pop in the conference room early and you're chit-chatting, or maybe after the meeting, you have some time to just kind of a little 5 minutes. And so setting an agenda for your meeting, let's say if you schedule a 30-minute meeting break, the agenda is a 25 meeting agenda. And therefore you have a few minutes before and a few minutes after just to engage. I think that's really important. And then as leaders, I think we have to be intentional about having one-on-ones and time with our team members beyond a transaction or a deliverable. I think that leaders, we need to start scheduling more time with our team members, doing things like fun Fridays and just getting together, whether it's virtual or in person, and being intentional about encouraging a different level of engagement. At our organization, I have created a leadership scorecard where engagement is part of their measurement. And that means that I want to understand how they're engaging with their people beyond a business transaction. It's a requirement. And so what do? We have a library of things you can do. Like I said, fun Fridays, having one-on-ones to get to know your team members. How often do you have one-on-ones that are just short one-on-ones where you can get together with them for 10, 15 minutes and just chat? And then doing some of those fun things like baby pictures on the screen and guessing who it is, or 2 truths and a lie, or whatever that is. So I just think that as leaders, we have a responsibility to set that stage. And that, as we do that, join those meetings early, do some of those things, that our team members will follow. Because it's like we said in the beginning, right? Leadership have the power of influence, and people follow leaders.
Mm-hmm. It's not all business. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
personal that's going to help us with engagement and connection. Well, thank you, Group 17. Let's move on to our next question. What can the firm as a whole do for engagement? And for this one, let's go with 22. So somebody from room 22, do we have a lead from room 22 who can share? Hi, Stacy.
Hi. That was us. We were thinking of, I think, some more kind of getting together, but doing it in both in-person and possibly some virtual, something like happy hours, or like with the possibility of like a holiday party coming back. But also allow for some virtual for those who are not comfortable to be in person, and try and arrange those where you maybe have small breakout rooms so that you don't have that awkwardness being virtual sometimes where everybody's talking over each other or nobody's talking.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that I heard in one of the breakout sessions was that the leaders just meeting more with their team members, like I already mentioned, that the leaders can be intentional about having some one-on-ones with the team members beyond those transactions. And then also, I hate to put you guys on the spot, but one of the things that came up was just, with the Zoom meetings, people are super quiet, they were saying, and I think you guys had told me that at the group, people are super quiet, really establishing that cameras on and setting an agenda that requires contributions from others beyond the leaders. So, one of the transitions that we've made is that in our department meetings, the department heads don't talk. So everybody contributes to the agenda and people go around and they share things from the agenda. And it creates engagements for different levels of team members on the team. So they're part of the agenda building and they lead the meetings. They contribute to the meetings and it really increases the engagement.
That's a great idea. And it helps people learn too of how they want to lead themselves. It gives them a chance to lead as well. Great.
Exactly.
Thank you, group 22. All right, let's finish off our questions with what can I do to be more engaged? And for that one, let's go to room 38.
Hello.
Hi, Brandy.
Hello, that was us.
Great.
So a few things that we talked about was how can we be more engaged as to show up and participate, have that focus, and also to speak up and voice your opinions, and commit to following through with engagement, not thinking that it's up to other people to engage with you, taking that active role and wanting to be engaged for yourself.
That's great. A great thought. Not only putting yourself first in that beginning of the day, but remembering it starts with you. Everything starts with you. Right, Scharrell?
Right, totally. And, we have to be realistic that everybody is not in the same space. I heard you, Carol, mention in a question around, was I always this way? And the answer is no. I was very insecure. And what I really had to do in order to become more effectively engaging is that I had to first make the decision that I wanted to be engaging. And then I had to get accountability partners. And I know we're going to run out of time, but it's really important that we have various individuals in our life who contribute to our desire to change. And so by having accountability partners, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a sponsor, because there is a difference between a mentor and a sponsor, whether it's just a true accountability partner, we need to have people in different roles in our life for different areas of our life that we give permission to tell us the truth about ourselves and to hold us accountable. Because everybody isn't comfortable talking. There are people who are shy, they want to talk. And so we need to remember that engagement is not just who's the loudest. Sometimes you engage by not saying nothing. You're letting people know that you don't care when really you do. So ensuring that your message matches your level of engagement and your type of engagement is ultimately what we're talking about. Everybody isn't going to be the most articulate speaker or have a high or loud voice. And that's okay. That does not mean that you don't successfully engage. Engagement means that you engage in a manner that is effective for you and that your message is not lost. And so there are ways that we can go about doing that. But A, we got to make sure that we deal with the fact we want to do it. B, we got to deal with that fear, let ourselves feel it, but push past it anyway, which means we've got to exercise some courage and get some accountability partners that's going to walk alongside of us and tell us the truth and cheer us on. And then when we fall, pick us up. And we're going to commit that we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to keep counting our wins. We're going to track our progress. And when we fall down, we're going to get back up and we're going to do it again the next day. And whatever we're going to do, we're going to speak life into our situation. We're going to be positive to ourselves. And we're going to make sure we give ourselves grace and mercy, because we will never be perfect. But as long as we strive to do the right thing, we will be exactly what we need to be in order to be women of WOW. And so I think that, you know, we don't need to measure ourselves to anybody else except our own individual end game for ourselves.
Thank you, Scharrell, for leading us in this discussion today. I think all of us have thoughts and tools of what we can take away to bring our best and our full self to work and really engage. So thank you so much for that. And I want to say thanks to everybody else for joining us and for participating in the chat, in the breakout rooms. We really hope that you enjoyed the first of our Women That WOW speaker series. We certainly enjoyed having you. And thank you again, Scharrell. You can see in the chat, everybody's thanking you. We really appreciate you being here with us to kick off our inaugural Women That WOW series.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and like you all, I'm learning to do my ask. So I hope that you guys will take the time to join me on Thursday morning. Our Leadership in Hills last event of the year is at 7 a.m. It's Leading with Impact. Leadership Requires a Tribe. And we're going to further discuss exactly what we're talking about today. How do we become impactful leaders? And how do we engage with the individuals in our tribe that will help us to move the needle forward in this game of leadership so that we can be the most impactful and effective leaders of our individual lives, contributing to the lives of others. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys can join me. It's Leadership in Hills. You can find the registration on my website or on Eventbrite.
And we have one more poll, actually. Let's pull up our last poll for those of you who are still in the room. We've got one more poll that we didn't quite get in yet.
That's right. So while we're looking at this poll, I want to say this, that engagement, in order for us to be the most effective leaders and engage effectively, we have to lead within diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And what that means is it's not just about Black and white or poor and rich. It's about inclusion for everybody and ensuring that all people belong. And if you ever think about a time where you didn't belong, where you felt left out or disregarded, that's what diversity and inclusion and belonging is trying to really conquer. We want to make sure that every person not only has a seat at the table, but has a voice. They're not only invited to the party, but they are encouraged to dance. And each of you, when you walk away from this meeting, I encourage you to be impactful, be engaging, consider all people, make sure that you belong and that you take the steps for other people to belong. And in order to do that, we have to lead with a high level of engagement. Thank you so much, Karen. I'm sorry I forgot about that polling question.
No, that's okay. We got it. We snuck it in. We snuck it in. Thank you, Scharrell.
Right.
And again, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this first speaker series. We'll
Bye.
See you at the
Thanks.
next one, everybody. See you
Happy
at the next one.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Happy
Thanksgiving,
recharge week.
everyone. Keep
Thursday.
safe.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. You're welcome. Thank you, and you're welcome.